On December 4th, friends and family gathered to honor the life, legacy, and sacrifice of Steve Dwyer Jr.
It requires giving of yourself to something bigger than you, and writing a check to the country and signing it and leaving the amount empty, up to including your life. It requires a great deal of sacrifice.
The Dwyer family has been fighting for our country's freedom since before it was even a country, serving in the Army since the Revolutionary War. Philip Roy Dwyer Sr. played football for Army, while Steve Dwyer Sr. met his wife, Gail, a cheerleader, at West Point. They went on to serve more than 50 years combined.
The Army is our family, so I have a lot of history with the military. We didn't push him, but Steve always wanted to go.
Steve Jr. was the Dwyer's oldest child, who was introduced to Army football and the Navy rivalry early on, traveling to those games with the family when Steve Sr. was stationed at the Pentagon.
We drove up, stayed with my sister near Philadelphia, and we would go to the game. And we had about 20 people living in that house. And my little son, Steve, and my nephew, Daniel, were sitting on the stairs looking down at the living room at the fun that we were having, thinking that there must be something about this that they wanted to be a part of.
It was that camaraderie, that brotherhood, I think, that drew Steve and I to want to go to West Point. We wanted what they had.
And they both decided that day that they wanted to go to West Point.
Steve was a standout rugby player at Army and graduated in 2009. While stationed at Fort Hood in Texas, he met his wife, Allie, and they had 3 sons.
That was the most important thing in the world to him, was getting married, having kids, being a good husband, a good father, and that was his driving force in life.
After a deployment in Iraq, Steve pivoted to aviation, becoming a chief warrant officer and flying Black Hawk helicopters for the 160th Special Operations Aviation Unit Airborne, the same unit his father had served.
Knowing that he wanted to be in it was really the special part. The hardest missions are given to the 160th, and then when that's done, there's just another hardest mission. And so with Steve, he was deployed quite a bit. So we worried quite a bit.
On November 6th, Steve and the 160th were deployed to the Mediterranean region. 4 days later, he was piloting an MH-60 Black Hawk in a training mission.
We had just watched an Army football game, and the phone rang, and Allie articulated that the casualty notification officer was there, and that the casualty notification officer came on the phone and let me know that Steve had been killed in a helicopter crash in the Mediterranean.
A tragedy in the Mediterranean Sea. 5 U.S. Army Special Operations soldiers killed in a helicopter crash. The Pentagon says the aircraft went down due to a mishap during a refueling training mission.
Steve Dwyer Jr. was one of 5 soldiers who died. He was 38 years old.
He wanted to be where he was with the people that he was with. And that gives me some solace. But it's not enough to help with the heartbreak.
Just a few weeks after Steve's death, and a few days before the 124th Army-Navy game, the Dwyer's family and friends came together in Clarksville, Tennessee, to celebrate the life of a soldier. A gathering that suggests Steve did find the community and closeness the boy at the top of the stairs all those years ago was looking for.
Go Army, beat Navy!
The Dwyer family will watch the game as they always do, but it will have more meaning because of who is missing and the sacrifice he made.
But you get caught up in it. Your camaraderie, your friends, your whole life is part of it. But it doesn't hit home until it's one of your own. That's when you know what the definition of sacrifice is.
Give me something.